First, if you are listening to this on the podcast, I need you to head over to the YouTube channel because this guest right here, Anders, is unbelievable. So, as he was talking to us, he was showing us magic tricks that show you the illusion of what we think we know and see to what really is. Now, Anders is redefining personal development. Okay. He is recognized as an illusionist and he's also a 7-figure transformational coach. This conversation was so packed with ways for you to transform your mind. I cannot tell you this is this is the one. This is the one. This is the conversation you need to listen to. You need to grab a pen and pad. You need to start really taking notes. And if you can watch it on YouTube, I suggest you head on over there so that you can see what he is showing us as he is really teaching us. Look, you think you see this, but it is this. And maybe because you didn't see this before, now you'll see it because I said it. I'm telling you, this is awesome. Make sure you head over there. I love you guys so much. All right, let me shut up now. Go ahead. Go, 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 go.
I'm Anders Hansen, and I help business owners, entrepreneurs, and conscious creators overcome their mental illusions so that they can step out and create quantum leap results in their life and in their business. And we do that through our award-winning Real Magic Live events that I co-created with Bob Proctor, as well as our coaching programs and different online processes.
What's up, y'all? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. And today's guest is no ordinary entrepreneur. Now, he's an internationally recognized illusionist and a 7-figure transformational coach who's redefined personal development through magic. Now, I have never. So I'm excited, Anders, to have you here because it is so exciting. You're really blending two things that normal people probably wouldn't have thought of doing. Now, I know you have an award-winning experience that fuses stage illusions with mindset breakthrough. You're a protege of Bob Proctor, who I love. I watch his videos. He's amazing, right? You're co-creator of the Secret to Real Magic. And I know you've helped over 10,000 people, including top entrepreneurs, break through these mental limiting beliefs that we all have and then create these quantum leap results. So I am stoked that you're here on Straight Talk. How are you today?
Good, Ms. Neena. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on. I've listened to your show and I absolutely love how you dive so deep into powerful conversations with entrepreneurs and a lot of other people, and how you also share your own story of how you found God through your own struggles and how you created transformations out of that. Is really, really authentic. So for everyone listening here, do me a favor and leave a 5-star review for Neena and her great podcast. I left mine today, and it's the easiest way to help Neena reach more people with these wonderful stories.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's a passion of mine, this podcast. You know, I've even had a lot of like sponsors come and try to like, hey, can you give me this pitch? And unless I'm like really aligned with people, I don't. And I can care less about how much you're paying me. And so when I speak to humans like yourself who are actually out here transforming lives, that's the conversation I want to have. So I'm so excited you're here. And I want to know more about you. So who is Anders anyway? Like really? Without the illusions and the magic, who is Anders?
There's the human version and there's the spiritual version. The human version is
Love
an
that.
immigrant from Denmark. I left my native country of Denmark 19 years ago, and I rebuilt my career here in entertainment. Arrived with 2 suitcases and a deck of cards and performing magic for tips. And I got my work visa approved, and I started performing magic on big cruise ships and television, and crashed with my health in that and rebuilt everything, and now doing what I'm doing today, merging personal transformation and magic. That's the human version. But on the spiritual side, we're an infinite soul that lives here with infinite potential, expressing itself in the body right now. That's another side of me, like it is for all of us, right?
Yeah, but when did you start connecting the two, right? When did you start, or well, you kind of separated them a little bit. So when did you start realizing that maybe there's more than this human potential thing,
Yeah.
right? That must have been a moment. So I want to know.
Absolutely. It was when I got here about 19 years ago. I lost everything. I had associated myself with what I now call all the illusions. The television, external things, the career, everything else external. And now that that was gone, my dad passed away when I left for Denmark. I didn't get to say goodbye to him. My business crashed. Everything flatlined, and I arrived here with nothing. Like I had nothing left except the desire to recreate my life, and I had no idea how that was going to unfold. But in the midst of that, I found gratitude for just being alive, for being here, for feeling the sun, for smelling the grass, like small things. And I started recognizing like these magical moments started happening in my life the more I dialed up that gratitude. And I became really fascinated with my mind because I lost everything and yet I was super happy. And I was taught that happiness equals stuff. And here was I had nothing left of stuff. There was just me and my ability to think freely. And then somebody gave me the book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And I started learning that I'm not my thoughts. And that was like the big moment. Whoa, I'm not my thoughts. I'm not these crazy thoughts I've been thinking. And so then that's when I started to take control, more conscious control over my thinking, and realized that I had a co-creating partner in the universe and everything that I'm surrounded by. And that really sparked my fascination, my interest for personal development. Then I started studying, quantum physics, everything else, spirituality, got into personal development while I was building my career in the entertainment industry.
That is amazing. Like, okay, so you're touching on that, right? Because you're blending that career and that blending that magic with that personal development in honestly in a way I've never seen done. I've never seen it done this way, where you're transforming lives. You're also talking about illusion and magic and all of these great things. And I'm really curious about how you blended those. Like, why does this work? Why
Well,
does
I'm
this
glad
work,
you asked the
Anders?
question, Neena. Let me illustrate. It's so good. We are our own biggest magicians because we have a host of assumptions in our subjective mind. The older we get, the more assumptions we create, and the more illusions are being created out of that. Kids don't have that many assumptions. That's why it's hard for magicians to perform magic at children's birthday parties, because children, they see straight through the illusion. The older we get, the more wrong assumptions we have. So here's an example. All right, I brought a multi-dimensional domino break, Neena. On this side, you see one dot. Here, you see four dots. Here, you see three dots all of a sudden, and now you see six.
Right.
And then you wonder, like, what happened here, right? So your mind actually created an illusion. The last thing you saw here was three dots, or you saw one dot based on your assumptions, right? You saw three, or you saw one. But your mind has never seen this pattern before. That's why you didn't see it. You see with assumptions in your mind, in your brain, in your subjective mind. We don't see with our eyes. And of course, the same thing
So
happened over
good.
here. Like you saw either six dots or you saw four dots, but you actually didn't see it. You made the assumption that you saw it. So we need to finish these assumptions as human beings, and we will make up lies sometimes to finish the pattern, if it just finishes the pattern. So if I believe in limitations, I'll find all the evidence for it. If I believe in prosperity, I'll find the evidence too. And of course, we've never seen this pattern, therefore we didn't see it.
Right.
Now, my job as an illusionist and as a coach is to keep challenging those assumptions. And if I've done that today, Neena, so far, you will see three dots on this side, and now you will see 8 dots on that.
Right.
So that's one way we
Oh
get
my
people to
God.
think a little different
That's
about these
so
concepts.
good. That's so good. But was it because you got that book that started to get you into the transformational space? Like, do you
It was.
think you would have just kept going into the career of magic and illusion and stuff like that? Or what do you think?
I would have continued to perform, and I did for a number of years as I was studying. And this was the book I got, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. It's falling apart, as you can tell today, because I studied it for 19 years. My little dogs have had their little teeth in them too.
Right.
And I just
I
keep
love it.
studying it because I get more and more out of it. That was the
Yeah.
first book. It propelled me down a different path. And the
Mm-mm.
more I studied, the more unfulfilled I was in entertainment. And I'm sure
Mm.
many of your listeners can recognize that. We reach a certain plateau and everybody tells us it's great, it's stable. I was traveling, flying 8 times on average per week to different cruise ships. On
Wow.
the surface, it looked like a dream. I was performing magic. That's the dream I had when I was a kid. And here it was, making a living out of it. But it didn't feel like that. I
Mm-hmm.
kept asking myself after every show, what difference did this make for the audience? And other than they got a postcard and a souvenir cup, and the next day they'd forgotten about it. They just
Right.
asked themselves how did you do the trick, and they were onwards with their day. And that's when I grew more and more dissatisfied, like creatively dissatisfied. And I actually crashed with my health. I was flying so much, I just
I
thought
bet.
more Wi-Fi in the sky, less sleep, it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Adrenal fatigue, hormone issues, I crashed completely. And that's what woke me up. Now, when I watched your video where you talked about God and how you seek God at your lowest point, that was me back then. I felt I had screwed up. I felt I had
Mm-hmm.
lost an opportunity. I felt disappointed in myself. And I had these thought patterns that were not very constructive. But then the book came back in my mind because I had studied it. Those sentences, those affirmations start coming back. And Dr. Murphy talks a lot about God in that context. And I was like, okay, I have the freedom to create now whatever I want. What would that be?
Mm.
And I prayed for guidance. And I said, and then it just came so clearly. Do what 20 years on stage just prepared you for what you're going to be doing next.
Oh,
And
so
that's
good.
merging personal transformation with magic. And I was like, that's so different. And then
So different. I
I would,
love that.
yeah. And a friend of mine said, if you're going to work with somebody, work with the best in the world. And so I decided I'm just going to work with the best in the world then. And if it works, then I can just attract that person. And I started using these principles. And in 2016, my partner had to go to work. And he said, I have to go to work. I don't want to go to work. And it was unusual because he didn't really like his work. So New Year's Eve 2016, I went down to pick him up after work and parked the car, walked around, and ran smack into Bob Proctor. At the Bellagio Casino in Las Vegas. He was going through the lobby and I was going in, and we ran into each other. And that was a wild moment,
Yeah, I bet.
And he was reading energy. Bob was so in tune with energy; he could read anybody, And I said, "I'm sorry, I have to introduce myself. You've been a big inspiration." He's, "What do you do?" And I used to do magic, but now I want to do what you do. And he went, never heard that before either. Lunch tomorrow? And I'm like, what? Let me look at my busy
Wow.
schedule. Yeah, I guess lunch tomorrow.
Right. Right. Anybody on that schedule was canceled.
I
Okay.
know, right? And so we met
So
for
good.
lunch
What an
January 1st.
opportunity.
Yeah, we met for lunch January 1st, 2017. He became a dear friend, mentor, and
Wow.
we co-created a program together, The Secret to Real Magic. And he was fascinated. He loved magic. He always loved magic, and I think that's what got him to come on board with the mission. And so
Yeah.
we're carrying the torch in many ways in terms of certainly the content.
Yeah.
Bob he dedicated his whole life to studying one subject and one
Yeah.
subject alone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in this space right these days, but Bob was one of those people. I have goosebumps when I say it. He was one of those that lived it out to the
Yeah.
fingertips. Like,
I'm so glad to hear that too, because he's someone that, I've definitely watched videos of and have listened to and read books. And so when you say that, that's great to understand that that person was the same in front of screen and also behind screen, right? Because sometimes you get those people who can talk a good game, but then behind the scenes, they're just not that nice of people or whatever, right? And so it's good to know that. It's
he
good to
was.
know that.
But I'll be the first to admit, our physical presence here on the planet indicates we haven't learned everything yet. And
Mhm.
I'm still learning, and I've done stuff I haven't been very proud of. And I also
Mhm.
recognize when I violated the law, not our laws in society, but the spiritual laws.
Yeah.
There's certain stuff you have to make up for. And there's a law of cause and effect in every way. Bob was just so good. He was so giving, so generous, and
Mhm.
helped so many people. So yeah, it's been a great journey, Neena, and I treasure it every single day.
As you should, right? Because it's also a journey that I feel was ordained for you, like preordained for you. That's not to me, and what I'm trying to say is that wasn't a coincidence, but it was an opportunity, and you took it,
Yeah,
right? Where most people would have been like, "Oh my God, that's Proctor," and would have kept walking,
yeah.
right?
I
So
was almost about to do that actually,
yeah,
but
yeah.
because I'm from a little country and you don't interfere with
There
people,
we
you stay
go.
very private in your life. But I
Hmm.
had Michael Jordan playing that quote in the back of my mind: "You miss 100%." Actually, it was Wayne Gretzky that said it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
You don't take, yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah,
I got to do something, And
yeah. So
but
good.
I think we're all. Bob said it often. I said, "How did this happen, Bob?" And he said, "It couldn't have been any different. If you truly understand the law, it couldn't have been any different."
Wow.
I was like, and then he said, "Space and time are illusions, Anders. You should know about that." And then he laughed.
Space, time are illusions. And it's something I think a lot of us miss, right? So, because you talk about that quantum leap, right? Those goals, those quantum leap goals that you
Oh
talk
yeah.
about. So,
Oh yeah.
I want to know what makes the difference between the traditional goal settings, the
Oh
ones
yeah.
that we always hear everybody talk about, goal setting, that's the
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
And why do we freaking miss the mark? Like, why do we miss the mark?
Such
What's
a
the
great question.
difference? Yeah, I just
So
have
the
to know.
so the magic formula, Nina, I call it that because it truly is. I recognized it in my own life that it truly does work if we allow it to work for us.
Mm,
So there's three ways to set goals. There's A goals, B goals, and C goals. A goals are what we know we can do. That's last year's performance. There's no growth, no inspiration there.
last year's
Then there's B
performance.
goals, what we think we can do. And now it's sort of linear growth, it's 10% growth. If we go from here to there, if these people are on board, if the bank says yes, if all these pieces fall into place, we can go for that. But it doesn't juice us up. It's something that could be nice, but it's all right if it doesn't happen. Now, what Bob taught me back then was to set what he called a C goal, and that is what you really want. He asked me, Anders, what do you really want? I said, well, first, I want to help all these people, Bob, with this, but first I want to get out of debt. And he
Mhm.
goes, debt free is still zero. And he was like that. There's no inspiration. What do you really want? And I said, I want to help all
Oh,
these
that's
people.
good.
And he's like,
That's good.
what do you need to earn to be able to do all of these things? And I said, well, just a little more. He gave me $1. Here, you got more. That's not what you meant. I said, no. He goes, your subjective mind is
Mm,
100% deductive. You need to get it clear. And he said, let me inspire you. And what he told me, is something I often encourage everybody to do, is to 10x what you're currently doing. So if we're talking entrepreneurship and business, the easiest way to measure that is income or revenue, which is just an expression of service. You hear people say, well, it's not about the money. Of course it isn't. It just makes you more of who you are. You can give more, you can donate more. It's a beautiful thing. It's just circulation anyways. We came with nothing, we leave with nothing. So we're just a custodian for it while we're here.
yeah.
But he helped me set that goal, and he said, how much have you ever earned in a year? And I was embarrassed to tell him I'd never earned more than about 35, maybe 40 grand, working hard, working my butt off in entertainment. That was hard work.
Mhm.
And he's like, well, what if you earned that a month? How would that change your life? And I'm like, I can't answer the question. And he said, that's not uncommon because you never thought about it, have you? That's true. He goes, that's not uncommon. If you ask most people what would happen in their life if next month they earned what they previously did in a whole year, they couldn't articulate how it would change their life because they never thought about it more than a second at a time. They dismissed
Mhm.
the idea
Mhm.
before it even becomes a thought.
Mhm.
So he said, if you do exactly what I'm telling you, you can have anything you want. And I didn't believe that. I could not believe it, but I believed he believed it. And so I
Mm.
did what he told me, and 11 months later, I had earned $750,000, and I had
Mhm.
no idea what I was doing. I was scared, I was confused. My self-image was changed, my environment started to shift, everything started to shift, but I was
Mhm.
still the same person. But my results changed so radically. So
Wow.
what happens, Nina, is people need to get clear on the goal. Clarity is so important. Nothing becomes dynamic before it becomes clear. And the subjective mind is 100% deductive, and it speaks a different language than the conscious mind. That speaks images, sounds, and emotions. So we want
Mhm.
to start talking that language and really ask ourselves, what do I really want? And it may not be money at all in business. It could be something completely different. It could be the dream partner. It could be the dream job. It could be perfect, healthy body. I believe that should be goal priority number one if there's
Mhm.
something that limits us physically, right? And we've
Mhm.
seen that in our community. I mean, we've seen people rid themselves of diseases they thought or illnesses they thought they were going to be having for the rest of their life. And all of a sudden they're cured because they started thinking differently. And that's the concept Bob introduced me to with this little figure, the stick person. It was made by a chiropractor, actually not far from where you are in San Antonio, Texas, in 1934. And he said, the more we treat the movements of the mind, the better the body will have it, and the better the body will get. The large circle represents the mind, the small circle represents the body, and there's the conscious, the subconscious, and the body. And now
Mm.
we have an image of the mind. We never had that before. That's why most people don't reach their goals. They have no image for how the mind works, and they certainly don't have an image of their goal.
That's true. That's true. I think we it's also like what you said, Anders, right? Like when you started going through the movement of, okay, he believes I can do it, so I'm going to do this and this.
Yeah,
You also said you didn't know what you were doing. You still felt like you were struggling. There was some imposter syndrome going on. There was a lot
yeah,
of things, right? So I
100%.
think that that's what happens to a lot of us is we become uncomfortable with the unknown.
Yeah,
And so therefore we don't want to really go there. I mean, it's more comfortable to sit at home on the couch and watch a movie, right? Than to actually go do the thing, that thing that you thought of that is like, maybe I shouldn't do that. That's a little scary. Who's going to want to see that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we're in our own illusion, right? We're in our own freaking illusion. So I wanted to know, what's the biggest illusion that most of these achievers, these high performers are trapped in when it comes to success and fulfillment? Like,
Yeah.
what's that biggest illusion? Because I'm sure I'm part of that.
Oh, we all are. Trust me, we all are, Miss Nina. We all are. I've identified 5 primary mental illusions that are blocking most people from success, and we fall in either one of those 5 categories typically. And I wish we had so much more time, because then we could go through the entire process. But I've created an assessment that we can give your listeners later that will help them identify what bucket they fall in and also what to do about it. But I think as entrepreneurs, as people who want to step out and create more in the world, the overarching thing is what you said before. It's imposter syndrome. It's a self-image that is not in harmony with where we want to go. So we set the goal, we know what we want, but the self-image on a subjective level hasn't been changed. And when we arrived on the planet, we looked like that. We were just a subjective mind and a body. There was
Yes.
no conscious mind to change or to decide anything. So everything that went into the subjective mind just became a fixed part of our identities. And so as we get older, we search more information, we run faster, we work harder, but results pretty much stay the same
Yeah.
unless we change the self-image. And Bob actually helped me with that in a very dramatic way, I should say, behind the stage at one of his events. He invited me to speak at his event. It was the first time I delivered my keynote with this new concept, mind you. And so Bob calls me. He's like, "Hey, we have an event in Los Angeles, and I would like for you to speak on stage with your concept, magic and personal transformation. Are you ready?"
So good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna have 500 people in the audience, 120 countries are live streaming. It's gonna be a party. I'm like, okay, great. So I was standing there behind the stage, and I was so nervous, Nina. Like I was sweating, I was nauseous, I was
Mm-hmm.
pale, I was so nervous. Thought of, what are they gonna think of me? Are they gonna judge me? Am I good enough? Bob comes up to me and he goes, "You're nervous, aren't you?" I'm like, mm-hmm. He goes, "How dare you be nervous? That is so selfish." I'm like,
What?
what? Like, when your dog doesn't understand you, it sort of just tilts his head.
Yeah.
That was me. It's like, what do you mean? Do you have a choice here? And he goes, "Yes, you do. You're focused on you. You're afraid of what they think of you. That is so selfish. When you're here to deliver a valuable message, focus on the receiver for a change. Focus on the
Wow.
recipient and forget yourself and have fun with it." And then he pushed me on stage and smiled. And so I was in front of these 500 people, but the nervousness completely went away, because for the first time in my life, I took myself out of the equation, because I
Wow.
realized that it's not about us. We're just terminals for a message, and it's ultimately about the receiver. And I think a lot of people would help themselves so much in life when they stopped obsessing over themselves in the mirror and
Mm.
start focusing on people around them and how they can benefit them. That will
Mm.
make a huge shift. It certainly did for me.
Okay, there's like so much, right? Because basically what you're talking about is like reprogramming, right? Just
100%.
like really reprogramming yourself. So,
Yeah,
because you're teaching us right now that there's a reality that you can be reprogrammed, right? A lot of times people tell
absolutely.
you that you cannot be reprogrammed, that those programs are going to always be there, or those programs
No,
cannot be changed.
no, no, no,
So I
no.
want you to break down that science,
Yeah,
right? That
yeah,
principle behind that to me and to our listeners.
absolutely.
Teach us the reality of that. What is the reality of reprogramming?
I think it's so important, and I love that you asked the question. It is so important not to fall into the trap to think that the mind is the brain. If we
Mm,
assume the mind is the brain, yes, then I probably will have challenges in my perception. But the mind is not the brain. I had a client whose little son was diagnosed with a brain tumor. He was 3 years old. And
mm,
she came to me and she goes, "What do I do?" And I said, "For goodness sakes, don't let any doctor tell you that his brain is his mind. His brain belongs to his body, but the mind is not in the body. The mind is energy. The mind is movement. The mind manifests through the body. And with that perception, we can start shifting things that we before didn't think we could." And he today, her little son is perfectly healthy. He's missing 1/3 of his brain. He's operating like a perfect little boy. And I
wow.
get chills and I get choked, sometimes choke up when I talk
Wow.
about her story, because it's so powerful. And we have so many stories like that. The mind is not the brain. And there's about 8 billion brains in the world. There's only one mind, and we're all hooked up to it. Mind is
Yeah.
energy. And
Yeah.
and there's neuroscientist Dr.
Yeah.
Ibn Alexander that's written great books about that as well. And there's more and more evidence that shows that. So with just a change in perception, we're so earthbound. We think we are the human instruments that we are running around in. We're a spiritual being that we're having a human experience. We're a spiritual being who lives in a body, and we're gifted with an intellect that can think. But so the way to really rewire neurocircuitry is first understand that the mind is movement and we control it. And when we become bigger than the body, through all of our different tools, and we'll give some away to your listeners today. In fact, we'll give them something that is reserved for from one of our from the Secret to Real Magic, actually, the first module, because that gives a good understanding of the mind and the relationship between the mind and the body that I believe is essential. Never let anybody tell you that you can rewire your thinking. It's absolutely possible.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Neuroplasticity is real, and the more we study
Yeah.
that, the more we find
Yeah.
out that it is.
I believe that too. I love like the neuroscience and all that. It's helped me transform my life. And I know I still have a lot more to learn. And, I got obsessed with the hustle. I got obsessed with, I'm in debt too, right? So I have to pay my debt. I have to go hustle. I got to go do the thing. And I'm still kind of in that, right? Because I'm still struggling with that. So I'm wondering, how do we tap into that? How can I term this? An effortless success, basically, or
100%.
not that hustle all the time,
Yeah,
without losing ourselves, without burning out, without
yeah.
that. Because I hit a wall a couple months ago where I literally shut down. I
Mhm,
just couldn't anymore, because it's, you work yourself like kind of what you did, Anders, to the
mhm,
bone, where you start
mhm.
getting like me, autoimmune conditions and all this
Yeah,
other stuff.
yeah.
How do we do that? How do
So
we?
it's a great question, and I just love your sincerity. There's not a lot of podcast hosts that will be so sincere and open about their own journey, and I really respect that.
Thank you.
That's amazing. I think the first step for me back then was to recognize too that if you're trying to get rid of something, you'll attract more of it. So I want
I
you to,
know.
if you lose your car keys, you find them. That's a subjective programming, right?
So
So
true.
we don't want to lose, we don't want to get rid of stuff. We don't want to get rid of debt. What we want to do is focus on prosperity and income.
Ah.
And then we also want to change one of those mental illusions, one of which for us entrepreneurs, especially, is time is money. We've heard it our entire life, and that is one of the most expensive lies we've been served. That
Mm.
absolutely doesn't help. Time is not money. But we had parents that were equalizing the two because they had a job, and the more they worked, the more they earned, which is crazy. It
Mhm,
just then
mhm.
starts to the graveyard a little bit sooner. That's all it does. So we want to serve at a higher level. We want to not sell our time anymore. We want to sell results in the marketplace. We want to lead from a higher value level. And there's different value levels. The lowest is implementation, where we get paid to do a certain type of work. That's implementation. I was implementing work in the entertainment industry. I was
Right.
paid per show. If I didn't, it was if the dancing chicken wasn't on stage doing his thing, I wasn't getting paid. That was just the way it was. Then we have management. You get paid a little bit more, for other people's effort. But the second highest is really where it gets interesting, and that's communication. For us entrepreneurs and business owners, we need to be able to elevate our communication skills
Yeah.
and serve at a higher level, like you're doing here, to reach a broader audience. And the very one at the top is imagination, where we only deal in ideas and more money, and we utilize
Mm.
our money to create more ideas. And it's very little, it has nothing to do with physical work. So the more we earn, the more energetic and the more spiritual work becomes. But if we're stuck in that debt trap, we need to first, like a good mentor of mine told me once, stop digging. If we find ourselves in a
Mm.
hole, stop digging and start looking at what we would love. And that wasn't easy for me back then. I had an eviction notice on my door. I had a blood test that said I was sick, and nothing worked. So
Mhm,
to
mhm.
disassociate myself and my reality so much to a point where I'm a happy, healthy, prosperous individual that has generated $40,000 a month or more, it sounded ridiculous when I read it to myself. It was so far away from my reality. But Bob said, keep going. It's going to sound like a lie in the beginning, but if you tell yourself a lie often enough, you'll start believing it.
Mm.
So
Mm.
you go from this doesn't make any sense, it's crazy, to there could be something about it, and then your mind is going to start circling around ideas that are prosperous ideas all of a sudden, whereas before it was about limitations and lack. And one day you'll find yourself standing in the middle of it, realizing you've achieved it, But then 10 other problems came in,
Right.
and they were just magnified. I thought, if I just learn to earn more money, all problems go away. Wait a minute,
Yeah, I
they got
wish.
magnified by 10.
But you know,
So,
but it's very powerful, right? That if you tell yourself a lie long enough, you'll believe it, because that is actually true for the limitation part as well,
yeah,
right? All of
yeah,
the lies we constantly tell ourselves because of trauma or things that have happened or people deceived us or whatever the thing is, and we've
100%.
made up a story that we end up believing that isn't true.
Yeah,
And so I guess it does work both ways. That actually spoke to me deeply. So thank you for that. Especially, the part, if, if you're already in a hole, stop digging. It's so true. I was talking to my husband about that. I'm like, okay, things have to shift because we are going through so many financial hardships right now. And I'm like, babe, his car broke down. So now he's really like struggling, and we're going through all this stuff. And I said to him, okay, so we either are grateful that we
mhm,
woke up this morning, that we have a bed, that we have
yeah,
a home when we had lost everything, or we can keep going down this path, which doesn't feel very good. So you tell me
no,
which path you want to go down.
100%.
Um, and then he had mentioned to me that somebody else started a GoFundMe for someone, and they knew he was struggling, but they started it for someone else. And I said, great, let's bless them.
Absolutely.
you know
That's the way to
and
do
he's
it.
like God, but I need it to. I'm like, no, 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 see, this is where the problem lies,
Yeah,
because if you don't go outside of yourself to bless someone else, I call it stealing your own blessing, right?
absolutely.
So
Oh, yeah.
you do that to others, it's coming back to you. The law of reciprocity is real, right?
Absolutely, but you
Yeah.
have to do it with a grateful heart,
Yeah.
and gratitude hooks you up to your source of supply. It does.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a prosperous state to be in. And I remember back then I didn't have much, but I had my time, so I went out to donate my time at a local food bank,
Hmm.
and we packed in a morning in a session with a lot of other volunteers meals enough to feed 15,000 school children. It made me feel so rich all of a sudden.
So good, I
I
know.
felt like the richest man on the planet, and I had
Mm,
like $200 left in my account.
yeah.
But from that vibration, the very next day on LinkedIn, somebody reached out to me and they had a conference in Las Vegas and they wanted me to speak. I, I, but my self-image said I'm a highly paid professional speaker, so that's what that is.
Right.
And I had built into my self-image that my highly paid speech was $10,000 or more.
Yeah, good
I
for
believed it.
you.
I believed it because I had been in front of the mirror for hours and hours and hours. I had become the person. So when they
Right.
asked, how much is it? And I said 14,000, and there's something to haggle with. And they went, okay. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
That happened the next day. And I
Oh,
know
don't
it
you
wasn't
love
an
that?
accident, Nina.
Oh,
It
so
wasn't an
good.
accident. It wasn't
Yeah.
an
No,
accident because I
no,
was in
and
a
none of it
positive
is.
vibration.
Mhm,
But it's
mhm.
all energy.
Yeah.
So here's a scarf, right? And we can tie a knot. That's the knot that we experience sometimes, the knot of lack and limitation, the knot of struggle, or whatever it is. But it's real. We feel it. It's there. There's
Mhm,
no denying that. But the feeling of gratitude hooks you up to your source of supply, and the more grateful you are, the more you can dissolve that knot, and the more it actually just goes away.
mhm.
But
Right.
it doesn't end. It keeps going, and some days there's another one. But now we strengthen the muscle, the gratitude muscle, and we have a technique actually that will help to do that as part of the download we're going to give you. But the more we strengthen that gratitude muscle, the more we can get rid of them. And you know what? That's real magic to me, Nina.
It's so awesome, Sauce. Oh man, I just freaking adore you. Okay, so I want to talk. I know that we have we still have some time. Okay, I want to talk about your program because I mean, come on. Like, come on. This is so awesome. When I was reading your bio, I'm like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love everything that he is about right now. Right. So I want you to talk to us about what it is you're doing with people, in your program. Like, what does that look like? Is
Yeah.
it like something that they do for a month, 6 months, 5 months, a year? I mean, what does your program look like?
Yeah, so I did in 2020 team up with Bob Proctor and we created The Secret to Real Magic, which is a
Hmm.
6 month process where we uncover all those illusions to help rewire our thinking, the way we feel, the way we see the world, and also how we attract. So it will take anyone from anywhere to where they want to go in a very short amount of time because it goes to the root of the problem. And so, if you're on here and if you're a high achieving entrepreneur, or if you're somewhere in between, or if you want to get started on your journey, but you don't know where to start, we need to change that. We need to get some clarity and get clarity on where we want to go, first of all, and where we are. Before we figure out where we want to go, we need to realize where we are. So,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
first thing we're giving everybody here is something I call our illusion breaking self assessment. I talked about it before, but it's a powerful guided assessment that will help identify the number one success blocking mental habit, mental illusion that is sort of preventing us from the next step. So once that's identified, now we can, and that shift alone will unlock a lot of clarity for a lot of folks. Now, once that is done and over with, we get that clarity. The second thing we're going to give you is 4 steps of how to get clear on your goals. It will have a video of Bob and I talk about the importance of goal setting. It will have a goal card template with 13 tips from us of how to gain that clarity and get it down in writing. It will also have my morning priming routine as an audio download that you can download and then start priming yourself with, because that's essential. You talked about it before. Like, how do I go from having the goal to actually believing in it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the next step. And we're also gifting your listeners with actually the first module from Secret to Real Magic, our
That's
paid
awesome.
program. And it's about the mental construct between the mind and the body, how those two are linked, and how we can build a winning mental attitude, because that's really what it comes down to. So we have a resilient mindset, regardless of what's going on in the world. The world is always going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And if we look for crazy, we'll find it. But if we look for stability and peace and prosperity, guess what? We'll find it too.
I
So
love that.
all everyone has to do here, it's super simple. They just have to find me on Instagram or Facebook at Real Anders Hansen, either on Facebook or Instagram, and just DM us the word straight talk. And then we send
Okay.
that kit to everybody.
Okay. Perfect. I do want to talk to you about, since I mentioned the real world and what's happening in the world, right?
Yeah.
Because okay. So one of the things I tell the women in my coaching program is, because they were like, oh, chef, chef, I'm sorry, I'm a chef too by trade. So they call me chef or coach. They're like, how do I use AI? So I've been, showing them how to use AI to kind of help them navigate some of the little easier things that they can do in life. But here's where I'm finding some trickiness, right? I want to know, how do we stay spiritually aligned,
Mhm.
right? While
Yeah.
we're navigating this entrepreneurship, because AI is kind of taking over people's thinking, Anders. This is becoming a problem, right? It's kind of like, we used to call the TV the boob tube, because you used to sit in front of it and not even think, right? So it's
Right.
kind of like that. Like,
Yeah.
people are now going to it to answer questions they can answer themselves.
Yeah.
They're going to it to write a text or send an email. And I'm like, wait, start thinking for yourself. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So how do we still stay spiritually aligned and,
Yeah.
just really know ourselves? Because I think it's getting harder.
It's such a profound and such an important question in life, in business, in any aspect of our lives, because we're spiritual beings and we should never surrender that power entirely. We should use it as a tool, but not as a substitute. And I
Mhm.
do think the world is dividing itself into the consumers and the creators, the people that
Mhm.
are leveraging the technology to expand their lives and create more of good in the world, and the people who just sit mindlessly and scroll. So we just get to decide which category we want to be in. But to answer your question specifically, the way to ground yourself in your spirituality and stay aligned is through gratitude. It sounds so simple, but there's more
Yeah,
to
it
it.
is powerful. Yeah.
There's more to it, of course, but that's
Mhm.
how to align with source. And again, in that program, in the audio program, that is a process where you actually will start to feel different. And that's something AI will never be able to get
Mhm.
us to
Mhm.
do. Like, we need to maintain that
Mhm.
ability, because AI will never be able to replace our emotional intelligence. And
Right.
after all, that's what makes us human.
Mhm.
And as we move into this new world, I believe the creators that are leading with their authenticity and their heart are the people who are going to be leading this next phase, this
I,
next
I
movement.
agree. I mean, YouTube just did a really fantastic thing. I'm sure that people are mad about it, but they are not letting faceless AI videos get promoted anymore
Mm,
on YouTube. And those people who build a ginormous business on that type of content are
mhm.
pissed.
Yeah.
I actually like that, because
Mm.
YouTube is saying people are now looking for other humans to hear what they have to say, to listen to conversation, to
And,
get some wisdom, right?
and yes, and what's important is and I've just been through something in my personal life that made me realize how important trust is. And trust is becoming, I think, the currency
Yeah.
of the time we're moving into.
Hmm.
You just need to be able to trust, is this real? Is it even a real person? And that trust, faith, spirituality are going to be the parts of the new economy that we're moving into. No
Yeah.
question about it.
Thank goodness.
Mhm.
Lord, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Anders, you have been an absolute pleasure to have here on Straight Talk. And before we wrap up, though, I want to know what your routine looks like. What is your morning routine like? Because, okay, so I know gratitude, it has to be a part of that. So how do you keep yourself aligned? How do you keep yourself, because even though you teach it and all that, we all go through life and hurts and pains and
Absolutely.
self discoveries and things where I'm sure you still get a little bit of that voice on like, can I do this? Am I good enough? That
Mhm.
has to happen because you're human. So tell
Absolutely.
me how you keep yourself, like have a fortress around your head so that
Yeah.
you don't get, demolished anyway.
Well, you're right. We're just human, and I go through stuff as well, like we all do. But I have a ritual, a morning routine that I don't stray away from. In fact, I'm on day 2,383 in a row
Oh, I love it.
of my gratitude practice. But the first thing I do is get physically active. I take a walk, 15, 20-minute walk, where I prime myself. And that is actually part of the bundle that we're giving away. It's that process that I go through.
Hmm.
And I explain it on the audio what to do. But I do that as the very first thing. I come back and then I practice written gratitude, because when you write out in hand, it triggers mental images, and
Yeah.
those images triggers emotions. And now you're actually shifting your state. And I start with 5 things that are in my life, 5 things that are on their way into my life, that have to do with my goals and where I'm going and so on and so forth. And then I start my study. I study, some days I study a little, days I study a little more, but I listen to an audiobook, later on in the day. But I always get my mind into something that's constructive. The crazier the world becomes, the more important it is to
Yeah.
keep our
Yeah.
mind on the right track. There's so
Yeah.
many distractions. And I heard a good quote from another mentor of mine. He said, successful people hyper focus on intentions for their life, and they ignore distractions. People that don't get very far, they hyper focus on distractions
Yeah.
and they ignore intentions. And I
So
think that's
good.
true.
That is so true. I used to work for this person who was super successful. They were multi-billionaires, right? So I was talking to them about like, what's your day? What do you do? Or is there anything you like to watch? Let's say on, besides stocks and all that stuff that they love to do. They don't watch TV at all. The TV is more like something that they dust off every once in a while when the grandkids come over,
I'm not.
and I'm like, that is so good
Yeah.
because we are getting so distracted. And that started happening to me, Anders, where when I got to this hole of the debt and all that, and I started to feel very just down, I
Mhm.
realized I was listening also to tons of politics and tons of
Right.
negative things. And I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
This is all theatrics anyway. What
It is.
am I doing?
It's
And I had to get myself out of that because you
no.
can easily go down a dark hole
Oh,
fast.
100%. And
Yeah.
yeah, all these conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Actually, when you say
Yeah.
that, I reflect back on my early start in business, and we didn't have a television back then either, and it was the most productive, powerful
Hmm.
days ever. I've, yeah, that
So
that
true.
television, it's a massive distraction. Many of us would be
Yeah.
better off without it, no
Well,
question.
I think it's all designed that way, honestly. And
Mhm.
now you don't need a TV anymore, right? You have your phone,
Yeah,
you have
exactly,
your iPad. I
exactly.
mean, it's everywhere. So you have to be more intentional, Anders, to your point, right? You really have to be intentional. So
Yeah.
I just love this conversation. I adore having this conversation with you. You're amazing. And I hope that one day I can have you back on again because this was so good. So thank you for being here on Straight Talk. I appreciate you so
Thank
much.
you, Nina, and I'd love to be back sometime. Thank you for the invite.
Yes, 100%, guys, right? I know, mind blown. I know it's oozing out the ears, right? I get
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm going to make sure to put all of Andrew's information below because I want to make sure that you guys get that first module and also possibly work with him because why not transform your life? That's what this is about. So make sure that you comment that word straight talk. I'll put that all in the show notes for you so you don't miss a thing. Thank you guys for being here. Like, share, subscribe, and make sure you share this with whomever and everyone that you know because everybody needs to transform. I love you guys so much. This is Neena Perez, Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.